What a weekend for British sports fans. At the Silverstone circuit, it's Grand Prix weekend, and the large television screens set around allow them to catch England making its debut in the 2006 World Cup. And we have it on good authority. They are leading over Paraguay as we welcome you to the British feature round of the GP2 Championship on British Grand Prix weekend at Silverstone. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Varsha with David Hobbs and Steve Matchett. The GP2 boys are back in action after a couple of weeks off following the Monaco round of the championship. But for two drivers, 1 week off was simply not enough time to recover from injuries sustained in Monte Carlo. Here's Peter Windsor with more.
Yes, new faces on the GP2 grid after an incident-filled race at Monte Carlo, and good to see the drivers getting together to send get-well wishes to Olivier Pla and to Nicolas Lapierre. Olivier tried to race at Monaco. Well, he did race at Monaco, but obviously it wasn't the right decision.
No, the resultant accident was because he actually done more damage to his wrist than he first thought.
And what actually is the damage, and what's the prognosis?
He's got a couple of cracked bones in his wrist or in his hand, and it just basically takes a little bit of time to heal, and he's not in a state where he can sort of safely drive the car until probably 4 weeks from when it happens.
Nicolas Lapierre obviously in hospital now in France. We gather he'll be back hopefully for the French race at Manicourt. May miss the test there. His condition, can you give us an update on what his condition is?
Well, what I heard is just it's just two vertebrae compressed, and it just takes long until it gets good again, but it's not that bad. It just takes a long healing process. So he should be back for the next race in Manicourt, and I actually hope that also for him.
You're the only GP2 driver that actually went to go to visit Lapierre in hospital in Monte Carlo before you left town there. How was he? What was his condition like? What were you talking about?
Well, anemically, I think he was good. I think he's a very good, very stable mental driver. And, well, you can see he was not fine physically. He got a problem in his back. He was, the bed was not even flat. He was a bit like that. So he just needs to rest. But I hope that he comes back quick. He's a good driver and a good friend of mine as well.
And that's one of a number of changes on the grid for the GP2 race. And here you see some videotape of a problem, a fire in the car of our pole sitter, Adam Carroll. Apparently there's some flame retardant material in the bottom of the engine bay that's doing anything but retarding flame.
Yeah, and Adam Carroll, this is his first pole position in GP2 or Formula 3000. So he's no doubt very nervous at what's happened there. They had to put some of that fire extinguisher powder on, which is not good for machinery.
You see an overhead shot of the field now in position on the grid. We'll take a quick break and come back, introduce the field, and turn them loose for the feature round, the Saturday long race of the GP2 Championship on speed. Welcome back to the Silverstone circuit for the Saturday long form race of the two-race GP2 Championship round. You see Adam Carroll's car is on the grid, but it is smoking. He had that fire just as he came around to take up his grid position. And it appears to be getting worse, but he is going to attempt to start the race. Lewis Hamilton in an all-British front row will start to the left of your screen. There goes Carroll. He's going to need to get air into those radiators. With that, let's take a look at the starting grid for today's race. Adam Carroll has already had a weekend's worth of adventures. His first pole of the year for racing engineering, starting next to Lewis Hamilton for ART Grand Prix. The points leader, 4 1/1000ths of a second off of Carroll's time.
Row 2, Alexander Prima in the second ART Grand Prix car, and alongside him Nelson Piquet Jr., who would have been on the pole, but his fastest lap was docked for ignoring the yellow flags.
Back to row 3, another of the changes we talked about earlier. Timo Glock, the German, has changed teams, joining iSport International. He'll start alongside Austrian Andreas Zuber. Best qualifying performance of the season for both drivers.
Well, in 7th spot, Lucas Di Grassi in the first of the Durango cars has his best start of the year by far, and next to him, Jimmy Bruni in the Trident 4 car. For the first time this year, his teammate has out-qualified him.
Moving to row 5, Clivio Piccioni of Monaco for Dave Price Racing. Next to him, Italian Giorgio Pantano, the former Formula 1 driver who's never qualified out of the top 10 at Silverstone in any series.
Row 6, the young German Michael Ammermuller in the Arden International car. The rookie season really got off to a flying start, but stalled somewhat likely. Next to him is Monfordini in the Dams machine.
On row 7 is Monfordini's teammate, Frenchman Frank Pereira. Next to him, Ernesto Vizo of Venezuela, out-qualified by his new teammate, Timo Glock.
15th spot, Adrian Valles from Spain in the Campos car, and alongside Hiroki Yoshimoto for BCN.
On row 9, Alex Negrão of Brazil for PK Sports, next to the Supernova machine of Argentine Jose Maria Lopez.
Lining up 19th, the youngest driver in the field, Javier Villar, the pole sitter's teammate, and next to him another youngster, Mike Conway, currently leading the British Formula 3 series, and he's standing in for Olivier Pla in the second DPR car.
Back to row 11. On the inside, Sergio Hernandez of Spain for Durango. On the outside, Neil Yanni of Switzerland, doing double duty along with his Friday drivers for the Red Bull Formula or Scuderia Toro Rosso Formula 1 team. He is substituting for Nicolas Lapierre with Arden International.
Row 12, Fares Forzi had a massive crash yesterday in qualifying in the Supernova car alongside Felix Portero for Campos.
And back on row 13, Luca Filippi, who did only 4 laps, the Italian running for BCN. That's a new team for him. And starting last in the field for the 6th time in 10 races, young Turk Jason Tahinci, 2 seconds off of Filippi's time. And Caboose on the field once again. See the drivers warming their Bridgestone tires. Take a break and return for the lights to start GP2 feature race from Silverstone. Welcome back to Silverstone. Bob Barsha, David Hobbs, Steve Matchett with you as the field for today's GP2 race pulls into position.
On board there with Primat, of course, Adam Carroll wanted us to get this over with in a hurry because it is extremely hot for Silverstone, temperatures well into the 80s. Big crowd on hand. Unfortunately, these guys, the crowd had dissipated while watching the soccer on the big screens. But
Adam Carroll's car, look again, starting to smoke. You saw Charlie White in there. He is the FIA race director, keen to get these cars started. Of course, a former Brabham mechanic by trade, Charlie White, and so he'll know that he wants to get this race underway as fast as possible. Extremely hot, and everybody worried with cooling.
But of course, 26 cars making up these fields, so it takes a bit of time for them all to get together.
Now you wonder, with that heat-resistant material pulled out of the bottom of Adam Carroll's car, when he gets on track, you wonder if that engine's just going to burn right through the floor.
As soon as we saw that, Bob, when the mechanic started to pull that away, I thought, you know, guys, I don't know if that's quite the thing to do. We're at the start of the race.
Here come the lights. Good getaway for Carroll. Little balky. Lewis Hamilton next to him, the points leader.
And Primat got in front of, Lewis Hamilton side by side.
Oh, we got a spin. A spin down in Copse.
Oh, boy. A lot of cars off there.
It's one of the Dams cars.
And I think a lot of damage to go around.
On board with Carroll.
There's a car that didn't get away from the grid. That's one of the DPR cars.
Is that Mike Conway?
Conway.
That was Conway in his first GP2 race.
Boy, those two front row guys, Adam Carroll. Lewis Hamilton's taken the lead. Going through the complex, the Beckett's.
What a disappointment for Conway. These cars have very tricky clutches. We've seen a number of cars not get away from the grid, so it's no surprise that happens to Conway.
So there's Lewis Hamilton out in front.
Second is Adam Carroll, the pole sitter. Behind him, Primat. Lewis Hamilton's teammate, and behind him is Nelson. No, Nelson Piquet Jr. has slipped back.
He is back in fourth spot.
Here he comes up the inside. It's the Abbey.
Oh, we got a safety car on course, and no indication of it from timing and scoring. Well, we say he's on track. He's certainly on pavement. Whether or not he's on the racing line or not. Yellows all around, though, from the flag stands. So it appears we will have a safety car.
Boy, and Adam Carroll's got to be very worried about this with his car. Remember, they've already pulled that fire-resistant material, the asbestos equivalent that they use these days, off the carbon floor. Well, that was smoking when they had that little fire underneath there, but to take that away, Bob, you're absolutely right. It's that heat, whatever the problem is going to be straight onto the carbon under tray. They would have been better off leaving that material under there.
That's the Frank Pereira. Frank Pereira, of course, who had a great race 2 weeks ago in Monte Carlo, started on the front row, and so out right away from the feature race here at Silverstone.
Started 13th on the grid. Here's a replay of the start.
Oh boy, look at that messy young guy at the back.
Oh, Hamilton beat Carroll down into turn 1.
Now a little bit further back, there's the contact.
That's Pereira going around. Trying to see who made contact. There were originally 4 or 5 cars involved. Yeah, there's Lopez. Jose Maria Lopez, who started 18th for Supernova.
But that shows how much better those those tarmac runoff areas are than the gravel.
The two marshals waving the flags at the back of the grid there for Conway's stalled car.
Boy, oh boy, Lewis Hamilton was shot from a cannon there at the start. Carroll got the better getaway, but as you saw, Hamilton just ran him down and passed underneath into one.
On the dirty side of the track too, but this is it. They're absolutely side by side as they come out of Copse. I mean, it's not over yet.
Boy, lots of wheel-to-wheel. Timo Glock and Nelson Piquet Jr. side by side.
Of course, these guys just want to do so well at all these support races because all the Grand Prix teams are looking on.
Interested to see who visits the pits. Somebody must have lost a front wing or something in all of that banging.
And we're on board with Adam Carroll.
Immediately notice slick tires front and rear on the GP2 machinery.
You got to keep the heat in the tires. Of course, it's a bit easier today because it's very, very hot. Track temperature of about 120 degrees.
Here's some pit action. It's the 18 of Hiroki Yoshimoto.
So he got caught up in that fracas down at Copse. Ooh.
Oh, man.
Oh, that is a flat spot. That's gone right through to the cords on the tire.
That was what they call a lockup, I think.
Absolutely.
He is Nelson Piquet's teammate. That's a Piquet sports car, so are they push it away or are they going to change it?
Is that tire rubber on the front wing? Did somebody's tire get right up on the thing?
Lights off.
Lights are out, ready to go again. And keep in mind, there is a mandatory pit stop in this Saturday race. And those pit stops do count if they're made under yellow. So Yoshimoto's race is far from over. Back under green.
Now, these guys are going to have to be very careful around here. The track is extremely hot. It started to lift some of the oil out of the track.
More pit action. Ernesto Viso and Javier Villa both. Now, why did they wait until it went green to come in? Unless they had a problem, some contact or something. Why not pit behind the safety car? This is Fauzi.
Oh, someone's had a bit of an off there.
I think
put
that's
some
what
gravel on the track.
Piquet did that on the first lap.
Boy, look at the lead Lewis Hamilton's got on Adam Carroll already. Lewis Hamilton is really a pretty outstanding young driver. There's no doubt about it.
If you're new to GP2, the chassis are all the same, built by Dallara, dimensionally about the size of a Formula One car. A 4-liter V8 engine made by Renault, tuned by Mechachrome. The same Bridgestone spec tires on all of the cars, and if you've been with us for GP2 throughout the year, you know that those tires tend to go off during the course of a race.
Yeah, here, of course, Bridgestone make the choice of compound between soft, medium, and hard. It will be a hard compound here because you get a lot of lateral load on the tires. The circuit is not particularly abrasive, but they need to run that hard compound because of the load, the side loads going through the car.
This is Nelson Piquet all over Timo Glock as they go through Copse. Has to drop back a little bit there because loses all the air, and Copse is now an extremely fast corner. This is into the complex. Maggots and the Beckett's. And as they exit Beckett's, they swing through Chapel Curve onto Hanger Straight, the fastest straight here. The wind today is helping them down Hanger Straight. It's dead ahead as they go past the start-finish line.
3.194 miles around, and this is the way to run a racetrack. There's Lewis Hamilton's dad, originally from Trinidad. Name those corners. None of this turn 1, turn 2 stuff. You need names like Copse, Maggots, Beckett's, Club, Stowe. There's Andy Negrão. Race is run. We have someone else visiting. Now that's Viso. He's been in the pits all this time.
Oh, wow.
2 cars appear to be officially out of the race. Lopez, Pereira make that 3 with Negrão. And now Viso is being shown as retired, but it looked like they were buttoning up the side pods. And he was in the car, maybe to send him back out, perhaps pick up a point for fast lap.
Which at the moment stands to Lewis Hamilton, who also got a couple of points for being on the pole, so his point lead stretching. Oh, I'm sorry, he wasn't on the pole.
This man, yes.
We're on board with the pole sitter, Adam Carroll. Remember, this is the car that had that fire just as the cars were forming up on the grid. It seems to be working fine now.
All British front row in front of the home fans, and if you combine the names of Lewis Hamilton and Adam Carroll, you get Lewis Carroll. Curiouser and curiouser. Says Alice. see the running order. Soon pit stops will begin to shuffle it.
As you've already said, compulsory pit stop. This year, most places, Steve, they've just been changing the front tyres, haven't they? Because these teams are not as equipped and not as professional as the Formula One teams, where they slap all four on in like 4 or 5 seconds. Yeah. These guys play it safe and just change the fronts, which would imply that these cars do understeer quite a bit, and the fronts are the ones that wear away. Oop.
Typically, this is what causes the understeer on the car, David. You're right. When they're running nose to tail to each other, you lose the air off that front wing, as you say. Then the car starts to slide around, and it just gets worse and worse. The guys that are out in front running in clean air, Hamilton should be fine. His tyres, you know, we've raced in the past.
Monfordini trying to...
this is for 11.
Boy, that's not on. You can't do that. You can't keep on blocking. If you've got to make a move, you've got to stick to it. You can't add to it.
That's Clivio Piccioni holding up Fernando Monfordini.
The man, I can say Monfordini, I seem to have trouble with Fernandino. But he is all over Piccioni, obviously quicker if he gets around him. And of course, this is the irritating thing for Monfordini, because he can see these other guys disappearing. He needs to get around Piccioni and set up in hot pursuit.
Meanwhile, Mike Conway, the car who stalled at the start, he is back in action and shown on the lead lap.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they got him out. Well, back on the lead lap, but nevertheless out there and passing cars. Keep in mind, this young Formula 3 driver racing a car like this for the first time. Well, we had some testing with the team at the Paul Ricard circuit in France. Into snow. Oh,
I've got some sliding on there.
Adam Carroll is Mr. Excitement under normal circumstances. We'll see what he has up his sleeve today. Stay with us. Welcome back to the GP2 Saturday feature event. I'm Bob Varsha with Steve Matchett and David Hobbs. There is also a Sunday round of the GP2 series at every race except Monaco. Saturday's race is long form with a required pit stop. Sunday's race is a pure sprint with no pitting and a completely different point structure. And we've had more attrition and more pit stops. Neil Yanni, substituting for the injured Nicolas Lapierre, has made his pit stop. On board, one of the Fisichella Motorsport entries, Giancarlo Fisichella from Renault and Formula One with his own team, one of several Formula One drivers who sponsor racing teams for young drivers. Kimi Räikkönen has a team in the British Formula 3 Championship for which Mike Conway drives. Conway is in today's GP2 race, currently running 20th.
So no doubt Kimi Räikkönen will be watching out for his young charge.
Lucas Di Grassi in the Durango on the back of Jimmy Bruni, former Formula One driver for Minardi. Di Grassi trying to get alongside Bruni, but the more experienced man holds him off.
Coming up to the Abbey chicane. Might be able to, obviously can't do anything.
Under the bridge, into the stadium complex. Coming up on the long right-hander, Luffield into Woodcote.
Luffield, apparently Jenson Button hates Luffield. I think it's a dreadful corner. It turns into Woodcote.
Well, after qualifying today, I think he hates it all.
What do we have here? Viso in the 7 car, and Felix Portiero on board with Lewis Hamilton. Nice clear track ahead. Oh, Jimmy Bruni dove for the pit lane. I thought I saw him peel off. And
decided to make his pit stop early.
Pitting from 11th. The Arden team is in the pit lane.
Yeah, a lot of these guys now choosing to come in and change tires.
Oh, they're telling him to cut the engine. That's Michael Lammermuller. David mentioned at the top he started out drums and guns in this series. But it's
coming out of the radiator duct there. But again, remember, all these cars built identical. I wonder whether or not the same problem something overheating on the car, isn't it, on the left-hand side, whether it's an oil radiator or a water radiator that's given the same problem.
I wonder, with top speed being so important around Silverstone, I wonder if they've, maybe taped off some of the ducting and they're not getting enough air into the radiators.
Yeah, poor old Ammermuller. He had a second in the first weekend of racing in the sprint race, but since then his fortunes have somewhat slipped.
Alex Premat of France in the white ART Grand Prix car, following Adam Carroll. The order is Hamilton, Carroll, Premat, Timo Glock, Nelson Piquet Jr., and Andreas Zuber.
Timo Glock having a good run with having changed teams. Gone to the BCN team, looking pretty hot today. Nelson Piquet, who keeps on saying that I have to win the race, I have to win the championship, otherwise I'll never get a Formula One drive. And unfortunately, I think he's talking himself out of it. He seems to get no luck at all. Led the championship easy to start with, but to slip back. Lewis Hamilton's really got himself into gear now. Good long run down into Stowe corner, down Hanger Straight. Premat right behind Adam Carroll now.
There's that unique engine note.
Premat's going to be making a lunge sooner or later here. Let's hope it's successful.
These guys are fun to watch.
Well, of course, Premat was very successful last year in the ART Grand Prix car. His teammate Nico Rosberg won the championship, and everybody really thought that Premat, who's the driver for the team that not only won the Drivers' Championship, but the team won the championship as well, everybody thought that he was the hot shoe. And of course, his young rookie teammate come in and zip, blew him away.
Checking the pit stops, the highest running car that has made his stop is Jimmy Bruni at 16th. Front runners will be trying to gap the field so they can make their stop and get back out without losing too much track position. Right now, Lewis Hamilton leads this man, Adam Carroll, with whom you ride, by almost 4.5 seconds. But then the cars are bunched until you get back to Piquet Jr. in 5th.
I suspect Adam Carroll is holding these guys up just a little bit.
This must be a thrill for these young drivers to take cars like these around this fabled circuit. Ferdinando Monferradini pits from 12th.
And again, only the rear tires. That trend is continuing.
And
David, I understand this point about, well, it's probably safer mechanically not to change the tires because you've always got that risk of losing a wheel nut, cross-threading something, or the studs not being aligned to the axle. But we've seen it, as the race develops. With the last 20 laps, they suffer with such understeer.
Yeah, we did see a set of new fronts go on one of those early pit stops behind the safety car, but that was so early in the race, it might as well have been a fresh set they started with.
Right.
I think Carroll is holding up Premat and Glock, although it's hard to think they're holding up Piquet, but who's hanging back a little bit, but they close up.
One of the modifications they made to this Dallara chassis for 2006 was to try to improve the cooling because of the problems they had last year. And again, if you look down the flanks of the chassis, you'll see those shark gill slats built into the bodywork to try and improve the heat extraction from underneath the bodywork. But again, I think a lot of these guys are just being caught off by the ambient temperature of the weekend here. I mean, it's absolutely scorching.
About 85 degrees ambient. Here comes Alex Premat.
And Piquet Jr. behind him. I thought Piquet might stay out a little bit longer to get himself away from this traffic, but obviously they decided to come in.
Boy, that was a quick wheel change. You can see some teams have worked on their pit stops.
Yeah, well, they needed to. It's kind of just a matter of experience. It's getting the team to work together. You've got to trust the guys around you, and you'll find ways, pick up ways to make things faster in the pits.
These tyres, of course, unlike their brethren in Formula One, don't have tyre warmers.
Luca Filippi also pitted. Carroll remains second. Timo Glock now up to third. Andrea Zuber to fourth. And Luca Di Grassi to fifth. Carroll's fallen to nearly 6 seconds now behind race leader Lewis Hamilton. Emiliani in the Arden car. In for the injured Nicolas Lapierre, a fellow Red Bull Junior driver.
Now they are changing all four tires.
I read somewhere recently there are 14 young drivers. Oh, they're shutting them off. 14 young drivers in the Red Bull driver development program.
Well, that was Yanni's second stop as well. See, they've got problems.
And of course, the other Arden International cars are already out with Amamula, so Arden International not have much of a day in front of a home crowd.
Timo Glock pits from third. Zuber moves up to third. Giorgio Pantano now fourth. That was well done. You'll note they do not refuel. Good Degrassi pitting from seventh.
On board now, Lewis Hamilton.
Let's see what kind of handling he's got. Formula One car in testing once, flew right off the racetrack. 1994, wound up sitting in the monocoque with all the wheels and wings ripped off in a pedestrian tunnel.
I was seeing a replay of Glock's pit stop.
Oh, that's because his wheel got away. Wow.
Yeah. Well, talking about working as a team and finding ways to make things faster, that's one thing you have to keep your eye on.
See if there's a penalty in store for them. The gap Hamilton to Carroll now 6.5 seconds. Here comes Adam Carroll. Now this could be interesting. Watch for the overheating.
I think Lewis Hamilton here is playing it very cool. He's going to stay out and see just how quick these guys go after they change their tires, because by the time this is all over, he's going to have like a 25 to 30 second lead.
Andrea Zuber also pits.
The team don't use a lollipop guy. They have an arrow built into the front jack. So as soon as the guy lets the front jack down, he becomes the lollipop guy that brakes on board and uses his front jack to indicate when it's safe to leave the pits.
Primet and Glock go by.
Yeah.
There's Degrassi avoiding the
errant tire.
Errant loose wheel. Carroll looking ahead to Timo Glock.
So in that pit stop sequence, Adam Carroll lost 2 places. So he won't be very happy with that. How's he handling now? New tyres. He's getting away from him a bit through that turn earlier on.
Now there you see Primet leads the stoppers now, so he's in pretty good shape. Remains to be seen what Hamilton, Pantano, Zuber will do ahead. Oh! Drive-through penalty. This is Lewis Hamilton pitting, not Alex Primet serving that drive-through penalty we saw briefly.
Now I wonder why he's having a penalty.
Goes Lewis.
Being very careful not to speed in pit lane.
Guessing that's what it is. Whew. Exiting with flair. Lewis Hamilton resumes. Let's see if we can pick up where he is. Okay, he comes out ahead of Primet, who was the leader of the cars that had already made their pit stops. There's your new race leader, Giorgio Pantano. Formula One and IRL experience on his resume.
But there's the key, of course. Pantano leading the race, but as you see, still to pit. So Hamilton looking great at the moment in P3, having made that mandatory pit stop. These guys are going to have to peel in.
Pantano's car looking pretty good through there, but going through Clubber didn't look too good. He short-shifted very much.
What do we have in replay here? Some of the Durangos in blue and white. Simple pass. Sergio Hernandez passing Luca Filippi. That was for 16th place. On board with Pantano again. Drops a gear and lifts. Blasts off down into Cops. We'll take a break and return with more from Silverstone. Welcome back to the Silverstone circuit in central England. Bob Varsha, David Hobbs, who was a member of the British Racing Drivers Club, qualifies technically as a co-owner of the Silverstone circuit. Steve Matchett alongside has spent lots of time in the pit lane during Formula One action at this great old circuit.
Yeah, I can't claim any ownership in the track though, unlike
A few miles of testing around this place, I'll tell you.
Giorgio Pantano, the race leader.
13 seconds up on Portier. Ooh, locking up the left front there. Can't do that too much, especially if they're only going to change the rears like some of the teams have been doing. You're going to have to watch your fronts. Ernesto Vizo.
Well, he's having a tough day. I recall he had that heavy crash in qualifying at Monaco 2 weeks ago. Typically, he's been one of the faster drivers. That was the incident in which Olivier Pla broke his wrist.
He's 2 laps down now, so he's not having much of a day.
No, Vizo must have gotten involved in that first corner tangle.
Yeah, there's some damage on the front of the nose around the car, just on the front of the nose box. It's been crushed.
He orders Pantana, Portiero, Hamilton, who has made his stop. The 2 ahead of him have not. Then Timo Glock, Adam Carroll, who started from pole. Nelson Piquet Jr., currently 6th.
And Hamilton is now only just over 1 second behind Portiero, and he's lapping 2 seconds quicker. So
Adrian Baez from Campos Racing, owned by former Spanish Formula One driver Adrian Campos.
Good, nicely controlled.
The exit's a little inelegant.
It's a long pit exit here. That white line that you're not allowed to cross on exiting the pits goes for a long way around that first corner.
No sign of those overheating problems for Adam Carroll from Northern Ireland, which of course is a part of the United Kingdom, so he qualifies as a British driver.
Adam Carroll at the moment 5th, Nelson Piquet behind him 6th, but that will change when Pantano and Portiero, of course, make their stops. Push them up to 3rd and 4th, probably. Premack, of course, comes out the big loser and all of that with that drive-through penalty. Look at him down there in 12th. Well, I'm sure with the amount of laps left to run, that Premack will pull himself up to within spitting distance of the front, but even so. Of course, if he should finish 8th, of course, he'll be on the pole for tomorrow's sprint race.
The second place runner Felix Portero is pitting as we speak. Ride with Giorgio Pantano. That'll move Lewis Hamilton into 2nd place, almost 15 seconds behind the race leader. There's Giancarlo Fisichella. There's one of his cars. Whoops! Lucas de Grassi in the Durango.
The rear wings off the car.
He is well off the road there.
Yeah, what happened
I wonder if somebody knocked the wing off first.
Boy, it looks hot out there. Normal temperature for this time of year around the Silverstone track is about 65 degrees. It's at least 20 degrees hotter than that today. On board with Lewis Hamilton, 2nd to Pantano.
With a wingless bird.
I think they have.
There we go.
Well, the damage is done at this point.
I wonder, did the wing break? I
wonder whether or not the pylons broke on the wing. What caused the spin.
Yeah.
Oh boy, and that's going to be very worrying because all these cars are built to identical spec.
Right, they all have the same wing mount. Although it might have gotten weakened had he been involved in contact with another car at the beginning of the race. Pantano pits.
Boy, it sounds awful to say, Bob, but I hope that's the case, because if he hasn't had contact and it hasn't fractured something as a result of contact, again, with all these cars being built identically, you've got to be very concerned.
And with Pantano pitting, let's see if we can see what happens here.
There it goes.
It does. It just comes off.
Ew.
And the resultant loss of rear downforce. He goes spinning off.
These wings don't have a central post. They're held on by the end plates. So Lewis Hamilton now well and truly back in command. There was a huge crowd on hand to watch the qualifying for the Formula One earlier on. And the potentially the crowd is still here. Unfortunately, they've all flocked to the big TV screens to watch England playing Paraguay in their first round of the World Cup.
If you're interested in soccer and motorsport, you couldn't have a better venue, could you? Really?
No,
Stroll from the
absolutely.
big screen over to the grandstands, have a look what's going on the GP2 race, back to the big screen for the soccer.
Or a better day for it. Look at that blue sky, hot.
Well, this track has taken a beating in the Formula One press for a long time about being behind the times, and perhaps the garages were a little small and what have you. The access isn't what they would like, but it's such a legendary racetrack, and the complex has improved so much. I mean, there's off-road courses, there's a variety of different circuit layouts that could be used for so many different things.
Of course, access too has been changed beyond all recognition when they built the Silverstone Village bypass, and they now have a divided highway into and out of the track. I mean, access now is a piece of cake, really.
It's a
No problem
fabulous
there.
place. So checking the order, Lewis Hamilton back out front, Timo Glock runs second, then Adam Carroll, Nelson Piquet Jr., Jimmy Bruni, Andrea Zumer, and Giorgio Pantano. We'll take another break and return with more GP2 from Silverstone. Welcome back to Silverstone and the feature race of the GP2 weekend for aspiring Grand Prix drivers. Bob Barsha, Steve Matchett, David Hobbs with you. On board with Giorgio Pantano. Oh, we've got another Durango backwards. Sergio Hernandez.
Giorgio Pantano has caught up with Zuber, who I think was being held up by his teammate Jimmy Bruni. You can see there at the front. Pantano's made a lot of ground on. Here you see them all duking it out for position. And right behind Pantano's Manfredini, who we see there. Ooh.
Just behind him is Alex
Closely by
Premat.
Alex Premat, who of course has had 2 stops, including the drive-through penalty, which has put him back down there in 9th.
Keep in mind the top 8 in today's race will be inverted. To set the grid for tomorrow's race as Pantano looks for a way by Zuber.
Oh, you've got to give him room at that point, but Zuber's car's moving all over the place again. I was just looking at the lap counter now, 16 to go. Wow. Oh, that looked
heavily
big.
into the wall. To the right, to the right, to the right. Thank you.
Oh,
Wow. In the tunnel.
going to bridge.
Manfredini.
Wow.
This will bring a safety car out.
Yeah,
Premat seemed to have got away with that somehow, scot-free.
Well, as you
slow
can see,
down.
Manfredini is definitely in jeopardy here.
I was just thinking we're about at that stage where the tyres are starting to go off and the cars are moving around. We saw it on Zuber, and
Careful,
then,
boys. Don't get out of the car and don't go to the car until the
just
field is under control.
I still can't see a flag flying.
There's got to be some flags there. Don't seem to be slowing down.
They're not
do they?
slowing down
These
at
guys are still
all.
at racing speed. This is madness.
There's the yellow flag in the background.
And where's the safety car?
Now let's have another look at it.
Ah,
Did he get help from Premat, or did he
I
just
think
do
they
it all on his
tangled.
own?
I think they tangled. That was one of the DPR cars following through the smoke. This will be, nope.
No, the back end just stepped round.
Manfredini got a little trailing throttle oversteer there.
Well, finally.
Now they're waving people past, trying to pick up the race leader, which means they got it out as quickly as they could, and now they're looking for the race leader. But boy, that was a close moment with Manfredini helpless in the middle of the road, and that corner worker running out to assist. We'll take a break, let him sort it out, and be back behind the safety car for the second time at Silverstone. Stay with us. Safety car pulls off into the pit lane at Silverstone, and the GP2 Saturday feature race is back underway. With Steve Matchett, David Hobbs, I'm Bob Varsha. Lewis Hamilton, boy, leads them down into Copse Corner with Timo Glock, Adam Carroll, and SBK Jr. behind him, and someone forgot they were on cold tires.
And Timo Glock is looking very racy behind Hamilton here. But they have got cold tires, and of course worse than that, they've got colder tires, but have picked up all sorts of clag off the track on those slow laps.
What was that? The safety car was brought out by a heavy crash involving Ferdinando Manfredini. Lewis Hamilton's teammate Alex Premat was involved, but appeared to spin without hitting anything and continued on his way. In fact, there he is, running back in ninth.
Timo Glock driving much better today. Different car, different team, and it certainly brought him to life.
Well, just under that, after the safety car period, when the tyres were cold, he had an advantage over Hamilton. There's no doubt about that. But I think Hamilton's tyres are now coming back onto song. What's left of him with 11 laps to go, and I think he lost that advantage.
On board with Carroll.
Look at the rubber ripping off the right front of Carroll's tyre. See a band forming around here. You just saw a big piece of David Hobbs' clag come off that tyre.
Adam Carroll running in third, was the pole sitter. Now coming under pressure from Nelson Piquet Jr.
Well, look at that train of cars. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, all the way back to about 13th, all running nose to tail. Here they come. Oh, what is that? Is that Jimmy Bruni losing an engine, perhaps?
Oh, something bad's happening.
Boy, I'd get out from behind him. Look at the fluid on the onboard camera for Pantano.
Oh. There's a look at the car. Look at two cars ahead. You can see huge plume of oil and smoke coming out of the car.
Yeah.
All over the racing line.
Kind of incumbent on Bruni to pull that car off.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, come on, dude.
There aren't 10 more laps left in that car.
Oh, boy. That is terrible for the people following him. And, of course, will they have oil flags out for the leaders when they come around?
And now he gets out of the way. And that's his teammate, Andreas Zuber.
Pantano's got a run on Zuber.
Now, these two have tried this before down here in the Abbey. Oh,
wow. Oh, boy.
Outside pass didn't work there, Giorgio.
Boy, Zuber is a tough nut. Last time through there, he did not give up the line, had the preferred line in the next corner, and held off the Italian. Oh, Pantano's going to
make a run somewhere.
Down in Woodcote, Luffield. There's Clivio Piccioni coming up behind in the blue and white DPR car with a host of others behind him.
Well, Pantano was one of the last people to stop, so his tires are relatively fresh compared to these others, although, hello.
That's Bruni.
And that's under the bridge again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to bring the safety car out again, I think, park there. You must be able to find somewhere better to park.
Well, exactly. There's all this open space.
Yeah, he was tooling around for half a lap.
So he must have known.
I think he probably wanted to keep going, and it just gave up there under the bridge. Nicely shaded. Oh, here's Premat looking at Piccion. No, can't do it. Now, Premat is in 8th place. If he stays there, he'll be on pole for Saturday's sprint race. Everyone behind him will line up in order of finish from today's event.
And, of course, the leader will start 9th.
Oh, safety car out. It's got to be for Bruni.
Oh, that's ridiculous for Bruni to do that. Driving, he knew the thing's been going for three-quarters of a lap, and he goes and parks it right there.
A guy with his experience.
Boy, he should know better than that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, the safety car continues to pile up laps in the lead, which an exciting race does not make. give him another chance when we return to Silverstone. 9 laps left to go. GP2 feature. Stay with us. Back at Silverstone, 8 laps remaining, 7 when they pass onto the flag stand as the safety car comes off, and Lewis Hamilton leads Timo Glock, Adam Carroll, Nelson Piquet Jr., Andres Zuber, and Giorgio Pantano in the first through 6 positions.
And somebody else is smoking.
There's another smoker.
It's more overheating problems.
Well, of course, all this safety, these laps behind the safety car, absolutely.
Was that Yashimoto?
Kiss of death.
It's one of the BCN cars, isn't it?
Oh, my. So moments after Gianmaria Bruni parks his car, Luca Filippi. I've got to believe it's heat related.
Yeah,
See, well, of course, these slow laps behind the pace car, it's just the kiss of death for race cars, because all the speed of the air flow through the radiator goes to zilch.
Right.
And that's the only thing they've got to cool them. And long pace car periods are a real
Nightmare.
race cars hate it. Race car drivers hate it. Suddenly it gets really hot in there. I mean, it was hot before, but you couldn't think about it because you're too busy racing. And suddenly you do those space car laps, and suddenly you're
It becomes apparent.
it's hot in here.
On board with Giorgio Pantano in 6th.
Qualified 10th, so. Behind Zuber. He's had a couple of goes of getting by Zuber.
Yeah. See, now Filippi just immediately gets onto some of the paved runoff, well out of the way.
Unlike Bruni, yes.
Exactly. Oh, lighting up that left front Bridgestone. Pantano. He and Zuber have had quite a little scrap going.
They've had a terrific scrap, really.
Alex Premat twitching as he gets on the throttle. Looks like Premat has gone around Clivio Piccioni, yes, for 7th, confirmed. Now Portero will climb into Piccioni's mirrors. Did I see more engine smoke there?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. A bit disheartening for these boys to be racing in front of such
Yeah,
empty
more
grandstand.
fluid on the lens. Somebody else is losing it.
He's got it.
The Zuber Pantano show continues.
Boy, oh boy. I have a horrible feeling it's all going to end in tears.
Yeah, it's Premat getting the left side wheels off.
Now, he's not going to try that outside pass again. He's so much quicker through this club, isn't he? Oh, not there, he's not.
Look at
Lost
the
the
fluid
momentum.
now all over the lens. The lens can't clear itself quick enough.
Adding a little extra urgency to Pantano's quest to pass.
Well, if the lens looks like this, what does old Pantano's visor look like? Now, he is lower, and he's got a bit of deflection from the front of the car. Whoa, Zuber!
There goes Zuber.
Zuber on his own, probably on his own fluid.
On his own
Probably.
oil, or either the transmission locked, which he hasn't, on his own oil.
Oh, dear.
Don't even. Oh, dear.
That's what they
I
call a
don't
messy exit.
Yes, he's not going anywhere from there.
Meanwhile, up front, Lewis Hamilton just swans off into the distance. Giorgio Pantano now.
I see no
Got some
sign
clear-
of that.
Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh, this is Premat knocking on Pantano's door. These are all for points positions. Piccione is still part of that battle. Lewis Hamilton leads Timo Glock by about 2 seconds. Less than a second back to Adam Carroll. Less than a second back to Nelson Piquet Jr. And then a big gap to this fight. Pantano, Premat, Piccioni, and Portero.
Because you get more points in today's race. It's like Formula 1, 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tomorrow's race is you're going to get 6 for winning it. So, if you, and there's an argument for saying if you don't win this race, you want to come 8th. But obviously, Premat's after every point he can possibly get.
Listening to the sound of the engine. Oh, is that further back in the field? Is that Javier Villa? Oh.
These brakes.
I've lost count. Oh, that's Zuber's exit in the stadium section. Not a good day for Trident. Bruni and Zuber both have apparent mechanical failures. Until Zuber
unfortunately got back to the paved area there. And of course the thing was still in gear.
Yeah.
And it drove him back onto the gravel. Battle of the Giants here.
Viaggiani and Tahinchi back there around 13th, 14th, and 15th. Whoa! Via does that just to put an exclamation point on the whole thing?
Perfectly. Young Via, the youngest driver here, only 18 years old.
Pantano looking back at Primat, Piccioni, Portero, and Baez. 3 to go. Next time past the flag stand.
Well, when the tyres were on the cool side after that safety car period, which was not that long, Primat seemed to have the edge on Pantano, but now everything's come back to proper temperature. Pantano seems to be able to hold his own pretty well. And of course he's got those better tyres anyway, because he was the last guy to put them on.
Yeah, he pitted late.
There is Lewis Hamilton. I so want to call him Lewis Carroll. Handy gap. Will firm up his grip on the points lead. And a Formula One future.
Already being talked about in very strong terms about joining McLaren next year. We also heard today that Montoya and his management team are getting a bit desperate. Have offered to drive for half the money at McLaren that they had this year, which is pretty desperate.
Yeah. Desperate men do desperate things. Juan Pablo Montoya won this race in its Formula 3000 format back in 1998 for the Supernova team. A lot of interesting names on the Roll of Honor here at Silverstone in Formula 3000 or GP2, including Mike Thackwell, who was the youngest man ever to start a Formula One race back in 1985. Mauricio Guglielmin, Roberto Moreno, Alan McNish, and Tom Christensen will be racing at Le Mans for Audi. Jordi Genet, older brother of Ferrari test driver Marc Genet. Gilles de Ferran, a two-time Champ Car champion, won this race in 1993. Kenny Breck, an IRL champion in 96. Mark Webber in 2000. Sebastian Bourdais, the two-time Champ Car titleist in 2001. And Vidantonio Liuzzi in 2004 for the Arden team. Liuzzi, of course, American Scott Speed's teammate in Formula One with Scuderia Toro Rosso.
Of course, Arden, owned by Christian Horner, who runs that team. Arden International having a dismal day today. Both their cars out pretty early on. Michael Ammermuir out very early on, which of course they're running second in the team championship at the moment, but that will make a big difference to them. Although Supernova aren't having a very good day today either.
This is always a great shot as the cars come through that shimmering heat, blast off into the Copse corner. Life is good if you are Lewis Hamilton.
Boy, it is.
Much the same way as Nico Rosberg last year. Just seemed to gel with that ART Grand Prix team. Came on strongly, won the championship, and now, of course, races with Williams Cosworth in Formula One. You can be sure that there is a Grand Prix car of some team's origin in this young man's future.
Yeah. Tires look great. But again, we've seen this time and time again. When you're out in front, you're not dicing with any competition. You have good airflow over the front of the car. They just last so much better.
Here's Lewis's father. Young Hamilton's team manager, a fellow by the name of Nicholas Todt, son of Ferrari team principal Jean Todt.
And just look how cool and calm he is in there. He's just got that terrific car control where he's putting little tiny bits of wheel movement in there to make sure it doesn't get away from him, and it makes it look so easy. And of course these cars are all the same and they've all got the same tires, and he just obviously does a much better job at controlling the tire wear, the rate, and it just looks terrific from those onboard shots.
Yeah, smooth is fast, isn't it? Smooth is quick.
Very slow hand.
And smooth makes it look easy.
Yeah.
Final lap. Look at the gap Lewis Hamilton has opened up over Timo Glock. And Hamilton has just set fast lap of the race, adding a bonus point, which of course adds insult to the injury suffered by the rest of the field.
So he will come away with 11 points, which is going to really extend his lead over Nelson Piquet, Jr., who's only going to come get 5 points today. So can Hamilton do again what he did at Germany a few weeks back in the European Grand Prix weekend, where he won the feature race, started 8th on the Sunday, and won that one as well? The first person to do that feat.
Set fast lap there, too. We'll have highlights of the Sunday race from Silverstone coming up shortly. Boy, oh boy. Poised to make history in GP2 and potentially someday soon in Formula One. Lewis Hamilton comes through to pick up his 4th victory of the season. It doesn't get any better than doing it at your home race.
Oh, absolutely not.
First podium for Timo Glock in 2nd. Adam Carroll with a good drive in front of his home fans in 3rd. Nelson Piquet Jr. will be disappointed with 4th, but as David mentioned, Piquet Jr. seems to be mad about something most of the time.
It'll be great for Lewis Hamilton. I mean, every kid in England wants to win at Silverstone, just like every kid in America either wants to win at the Daytona 500 or the Indy 500. To win at Silverstone at the Formula One event weekend is just the main, and Lewis Hamilton and his dad will be pretty pleased with that result.
He's got to be thrilled to do it here. There's Dad.
Dad.
Yeah, that says it all, isn't it? Loving it.
Containing his excitement.
Very well, too.
Yeah, it's that inner calm.
The other nice thing about Silverstone, the lap of honor is a long one.
It is indeed a long one.
You might want to pick up the pace a little bit, seeing as what happens to most of your competitors during the day is overheating problems. It's all good for Lewis Hamilton. We'll take a break and see him on the podium when we return to Silverstone Circuit. Stay with us. Back at Silverstone, race winner Lewis Hamilton pulls his car into Parc Fermé as the team applauds. Now fully in control of the championship tables. With a pretty dominating drive today.
Very dominating, because he had 2 pace car incidents, the first one of which on the restart he was really under pressure from Timo Glock, but he kept it all together, and then of course once the tyre temperatures came up to off he went. There is Ron Dennis was greeting him there, because he is Ron Dennis's protege.
Moments ago we saw his father Anthony in the garage area standing next to a gentleman in a white shirt. That was Martin Whitmarsh. He's one of the chief operating officers of McLaren Formula One.
He was a very successful go-kart racer, Lewis, and he went up to Ron Dennis at the Autosport Awards when he was a very, very young winner, and went up to Ron Dennis and said, "Can you sign this autograph, because I one day want to win races with you guys?" And he said, "But you'll never remember me." But apparently Ron did remember him and rang up Anthony Hamilton.
A 10-year-old, as Hamilton was at the time.
Yeah, and has been watching him ever since.
There's Adam Carroll heading up the steps to the podium. There's Anthony and Ron Dennis on the left. On Britain's rich list, there's Gary Anderson, former Formula One designer working for Irish television, walking around microphone in hand. Adam Carroll weighs in, showing the effort he's just expended.
Pole sitter, ended up 3rd, which actually for him this year is not bad. He's had a pretty unpleasant year. Had a huge barrel roll the first weekend of racing, massive roll.
Timo Glock also being weighed in, the 3rd place finisher, as the cars are pulled off of the racetrack. A pretty tough race with lots of attrition. And here come the top 3 onto the podium. And Carroll's got a pretty small head, judging from the way he's got that hat cinched up.
Lewis Hamilton and Dad there, both looking pretty happy.
Haven't seen Mom yet at the racetrack. 4th victory of the year for Lewis Hamilton.
And what a place to pick to win it too, right here in front of the home crowd. A beautiful weekend, big crowd on hand. Unfortunately, a lot of them were watching the soccer match on the big screen and not watching Lewis Hamilton win. But nevertheless, I'm sure he'll be extremely happy to have won here at Silverstone. I expect he's thinking of maybe next year when he might even win the Formula One race. He's certainly headed to Formula One sooner rather than later.
The podium party will leave a nice group photograph of the trio together. Ron Dennis looking
Take your pick, Ron.
At his protege, Lewis Hamilton.
We've probably told you the story before. Young Lewis Hamilton, just 10 years old. Karting champion, as David Hobbs mentioned, going up to Ron Dennis and saying, keep an eye on me.
And he did.
Well advised to do so. It's a pretty elaborate driver's suit Timo Glock is wearing by European standards. Father knows to keep well away from the podium when the champagne time comes. We'll be back to Silverstone in a moment. Where the GP2 Saturday feature race is now complete. We'll give you a look at the results and then highlights of Sunday's sprint race. As you see these results, here's an update on Ferdinando Manfredini, who had that heavy crash at the bridge corner. He was taken to the hospital showing signs of a concussion, and he is done for the weekend.
Well, there you see the results. Lewis Hamilton winning. Adam Carroll, who started on the pole, coming in 3rd. Timo Glock having the best drive of his career so far for the BCN team. Changed teams. Nelson Piquet Jr. in 4th. Won't be too happy with that. Pantano 5th.
Sergio Hernandez in the Durango car, finishing 10th and 11th. Mike Conway, Dave Price Racing.
And there you see the rest of the field as they finish out. Jose Maria Lopez finishing last.
Now with that, let's take a look at the highlights of Sunday's sprint race. Saturday winner Lewis Hamilton goes to P8 as they invert the top 8 points-paying positions. His ART Grand Prix teammate Alex Premat, right of your screen, helped abort the first start when he stalled, pushed away to the pit lane. That's where he'd start.
Second start, Hamilton makes a good start there, rushes through the field, but look at that in back there. Tahinchi, Forzi and Zuber run together with the wall. But meanwhile, Hamilton did go from 8th to 6th, and then he began his charge in earnest. Coming down the straight there, goes to the inside there of Adam Carroll as they go into Stowe and pulls it off. Next man in charge, Pantano.
He tries to get past Pantano. Pantano closes the door. Not that time, Lewis. You'll have to try a little later. Now, Neil Yarney's GP2 return. Didn't work out the way he wanted to. Taken out by his teammate, Michael Amamula. Boys, you do not take your teammates out.
And that did bring out the safety car. But on the restart, Hamilton having a go at Pantano again as he comes through Woodcote down to Copse. On the inside, Hamilton's got the inside line, hangs in there and whistles by, moving into 4th.
Silverstone, very wide track. Can you run 3 wide at Silverstone? Yes, you can, but for how long? Yeah, not that long. Nelson Piquet Jr. takes to the grass, bam, straight through the styrofoam advertising boarding, takes back to the track. Another replay. You see Hamilton dive down the inside there in the white car. Piquet Jr. on the left, curb on the grass. Whoa, boom.
How he slots between these two guys, I'll never know. Now he's only got one man left, that's Alex Portiero, going into bridge side by side, very fast corner. Coming up now to Prari, he's on the outside. Piccioni looking on the inside there, but meanwhile Hamilton keeps beavering away. And as they come through Prari there, he gets it. Look at the lead he got in just 2 or 3 laps.
So proving he is both skilled and brave, Lewis Hamilton completes the sweep on his home GP2 weekend. In fact, the only points he missed on the weekend, the 2 points for pole that went to Adam Carroll by 4 1/1000ths of a second. Here are the results of Sunday's sprint race.
So a clean sweep for Lewis Hamilton, sprint race and the main race. It's the second time he's done it this year. He did it at Germany just a few weeks back. Portiero coming second. It's his best result for a long time. Adam Carroll, who had been on the pole for the feature, in 3rd. Piccioni picking up points, and Pantano, Nelson Piquet down in 6th. Bit unhappy, I bet.
A little bit further down there, Mike Conway again in 12th for the Dave Price Racing Machine. Nagaro PK Sports in 13th. Jimmy Bruni, Trident. Now you see DeGrassi and Hernandez, the two Durango cars, are excluded from that race because they modified their rear wings by somebody other than Dallara.
Here's a look at the Drivers' Championship at the midpoint of the season.
Lewis Hamilton jumping to a pretty 22-point lead over Nelson Piquet Jr. He'll get more depressed every day it goes by. Premac with 36, and look at that. Vizo, Amamula, Lapierre, Bruni, and Carroll all within, just a couple of points of each other. Now you see the rest of them. Portiero with 10, he got most of those today. Piccioni with 10, he got most of those today as well. And you see the Yoshimoto down and everybody else in single figures.
In the team championship, Steve, ART Grand Prix pulling away.
Boy, oh boy, they are showing everybody else exactly how to do GP2 racing. 103 points. Arden International and PK Sports look just 1 point separating second and third, so there's your battle. And iSports International in fourth, very close to that battle too. Then it all starts to drop off a little bit. Durango, remember, ex-qualified for modifying their rear wings. 2 points on the board.
And that'll wrap things up on the GP2 weekend at Silverstone. Now the series will take a small break while their big brothers from Formula One travel to North America for the Canadian and the U.S. Grand Prix at Indianapolis. But GP2 will be back in action for the French Grand Prix weekend, so join us Sunday, July 16th at 6 a.m. Eastern for the feature race from Manicourt. Until then, for David Hobbs, Steve Matchett, and Peter Windsor, I'm Bob Barsha. Speed News is up next. So long, everyone.